Welcome back to Talk Tonight. The former media director for SU's athletic department is accused of secretly recording up to 108 male athletes in the locker rooms of several different sports teams going back as far as 2002, according to the district attorney, although the charges relate directly to charges in just the last two and a half years, going back to 2010. Roger Springfield was arraigned in court today. Question becomes, what do you do with victims in this case? It's an unusual circumstance, a large number of victims, surreptitiously recorded. In other words, wouldn't have known that they had been victimized until the police started investigating this over the last several weeks. Michael Benny joins us for the Talk Tonight, as he does every night. Let's begin with how Syracuse University handled this investigation. It was an employee in the athletic department who was involved with media and video production that went to the university and said, I see this unusual file and there's something on it that's not right. I think somebody needs to look into it. And that went to the public safety department. Anthony Callisto immediately contacted the Syracuse police, contacted the district attorney. This is a lot different path than what happened with the Bobby Davis story and the Bernie Fine story on the SU campus. It seems some lessons have been learned. These cases are different accusations. There's actually a criminal charge in this case. There wasn't in the Bernie Fine. But the way the universities handle it appears to have changed compared to what would have happened years ago, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, it certainly does. And fortunately, it seems to have taken the right path. As you mentioned, the employee contacted the right person, and it seems like the chain of events happened just the way that they should have, from what we know about the case today. Yeah,
and police and prosecution working together, not having to go to a federal level, which was, again, a year and a half ago, something that seemed a little bit out of the ordinary. So this is a different story, and it's a different story in many other ways, too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really compare the allegations for sure, but you can talk about the way this trickled up and out, and the folks at Syracuse University, with the exception of if these prove true, one individual, have reason to sort of cheer the way they handled it, because they all seem to have done the right thing in this case.
Now, Michael,
so that's a victory.
Yes, and we haven't had much time yet to talk much about the victims in this case. The district attorney today did talk about the victims a bit during his news conference in respect to that there's 108 of them, that the police detectives have gone through with the help of the university, one person by one person by one person, to try to identify them.
And the trouble is, Matt, is that many of them have not been identified. So there are probably a lot of athletes out there, certainly from back, you know, maybe in 2002 or 2003. Those are not the ones that he's charged in connection with. Right. There are probably a lot of athletes out there that are thinking, gosh, could this have been me? Am I on any of those tapes?
Well, I'll tell you who is concerned about that, Vera House. I was with them today, and Matt and I are proud to be honorary co-chairs of the White Ribbon Campaign that's going to be coming up, and you'll hear a lot about that. But I was talking to Randy Bregman, the executive director. This is the thinking at Vera House, which works with all sorts of victims of domestic sexual violence, these sorts of things. They're concerned that some of these young men will blow it off and say, oh, come on, who cares? He was videoed, so my private parts are videoed, no big deal. But they are concerned about a core group of this pool of victims who may have abuse in their history, who may have abuse in their families, and how this may trigger something for them. It's a very real concern for the folks in our community who deal with victims of any crime, but particularly when it deals with something sexual or something intimate in nature. They're very concerned.
With regard to victims and students, I wanted just to read a little bit of the university statement. They said, our priority has been, will continue to be, the well-being of our student athletes. We're in direct contact with all of these specific current and former athletes. The university is reaching out to offer them full access to appropriate support and assistance during this time, which could include a Vera House or in-house counseling of some kind on the university basis. And as you mentioned, a lot of these guys are now, you know, well into their professional 30s and family lives, and they're well past this. So it'll be up to them how they choose to get help with it too. Michael, we're going to continue with you here in a moment. Talk Tonight continues. Gun control, boy, quickly developing in New York State, isn't it? From the governor's impassioned speech at his State of the State last week to legislation really just a few days later. We'll have the latest and talk about whether this is